Welcome to the Shake Up Learning Show, where it's all about shaking up your old static lessons and blending tried and true instructional strategies with the power of technology to create dynamic learning experiences for your students. Whether you're a newbie or a tech expert, you're guaranteed to walk away with new ideas and strategies you can use in class tomorrow. And now here's your host, that sassy Southern belle and EdTech expert, Casey Bell.
What's shaking, y'all? Welcome to episode 121 of the Shake Up Learning Show. Today, we are jumping into one of my favorite topics, choice boards. Back to school is the perfect time to jump into choice boards. And in this episode, I'm going to share my best tips and ideas for creating and using digital choice boards in the K-12 classroom. I've also got some great examples and product ideas from the Shake Up Learning team that I'm going to share. So you don't want to miss this episode. You're going to love choice boards.
I'm Jeff Eichler.
And I'm Kirsten Rickert, and we are the hosts of the Getting Unstuck podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network.
Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Before we get started today, I want to send a huge shout out to Aviva Stern on Instagram. And Aviva recently shared on her stories how much she loves the Shake Up Learning Show. And I love hearing from the listeners and hearing what your takeaways are. So thank you so much, Aviva, for sharing that. You can catch her on Instagram at Aviva, AVIVA _Stern, STERN _ and see all that she shares. Thank you, Aviva. And of course, you can follow Shake Up Learning on Instagram at Shake Up Learning. You can pretty much find us across social media. We would love to connect and learn with you. It's time for our quick tip of the week. And y'all, this is actually a little bit of a change up. An update happened in Google Slides that you may or may not have noticed. And something that used to be called the Slide Master is now called the Theme Builder. So if you are not familiar with master slides, you need to be familiar with master slides. This is how you can globally change all kinds of things, fonts, font colors, your link colors, all kinds of things. I've got lots of quick tips on the YouTube channel with the master slide. Only now, instead of going there, you can actually go to a couple of different places. You can go to slide and then click on edit theme, or you can also go to view theme builder. So they've got it in a couple of locations. This really threw me off the first time I was looking for my slide master. Go ahead and edit that theme and it will open it up and show you the theme that you're using. And from here, you can click on that top level theme slide and change things on the background. You can add a watermark. You can change the fonts. You can change the font sizes. So instead of touching every slide, this allows you to do that all at once. It's a huge time saver. I had a jaw drop moment when I learned about the master slide, but just wanted everyone to know that it's now called Theme Builder and where you can find it. Again, go to slide, edit theme, or go to view theme builder. Both places will take you there. And of course, we'll have a tutorial up on the Shake Up Learning YouTube channel where you can see exactly how to do this. Y'all, it's been a minute since we have talked about choice boards, and it's one of my favorite topics, so we had to come back. I want to refer you back to episode 8, where I did the Teacher's Guide to Digital Choice Boards, full deep dive, and included a free ebook on choice boards. So you can go get that download at shakeuplearning.com /8, or you can jump on over to today's show notes at shakeuplearning.com /121. And I'll also have a link there. So it's still a great resource for you. Wanted you to have this to come back to. Now let's do a quick review. For those of you who are new to choice boards and you're like, okay, what is this? Is this just a table? Is this a worksheet? What is it? No. A choice board is all about choice. That's it. Some people also call these learning menus. That was actually the vocabulary that I used to use and have sort of migrated over to choice board. Those words to me are interchangeable. It's a menu or choice of activities. So it's a form of differentiated learning that gives students a choice in how they learn. And back to school is the perfect opportunity to begin using choice boards. In fact, I think a lot of those back to school, get to know you, all about me activities are perfect for a choice board because let's be honest, the all about me activities can get a little dull for students. We think we've come up with something amazing that no other teacher has done, and then we find out every other teacher in the hallway is doing the same thing. So we want to make sure that we're giving students some choice and variety, but we also want to be able to differentiate for learning styles and for interests so we can give them a variety inside that choice board. Now, those choice boards can take many forms, and we're going to dig into that in a little bit. Choice boards are not new. They've been around for a long time. In fact, they, of course, originated in a static paper format. They can be written on the board. You can do this any way that you want to. But we, of course, here at Shake Up Learning are going to look at the digital side of choice boards and hopefully a way to make these interactive with the power of technology. So I've shared my story many times on why I started using choice boards. I was doing small group instruction and I needed to find a way to figure out what the other kids were going to do because I was teaching in a style that I had been taught that every student did the exact same thing at the exact same time. And suddenly, when I started breaking things into groups and doing small group instruction, I needed to get a little bit more creative in terms of helping those other students take some ownership of their learning. And you know what? It worked out so well. It really changed my classroom. It helped me provide flexible learning paths for my students, and it helped me differentiate. And the other thing with giving choice is we open up the option to give students some voice in their learning, some voice in how they demonstrate their learning, some choices in how they get there. Now, I like to rely on some of the best resources that I can, and I believe Carol Ann Tomlinson to be one of the definitive voices when it comes to differentiated instruction. And what she says is, at its core, differentiated instruction means addressing ways in which students vary as learners. And choice boards help us do that. I want to add a new layer today, though, because we are taking things to another level and looking at how we can use choice boards in our classrooms. And I want to talk about the UDL alignment, because if you go back to the UDL guidelines, you will find that choice boards very much help us reach some of those goals by providing multiple means of engagement, representation, and/or action and expression. And y'all, I dug in deep to the guidelines, so stay with me here, but these are the other things that we can expect from choice boards and how this aligns with UDL. So if you are using UDL in your school, this is a great way to support this and help other teachers and even administrators understand the power of choice boards. We can optimize individual choice and autonomy. We can vary demands and resources. We can foster collaboration and community. We can offer alternatives for auditory information and offer alternatives for visual information. We can also vary the methods for response and navigation, optimize access to tools and assistive technologies, and use multiple media for communication and multiple tools for construction and composition. Stay with me because this just hits it right on the head. And last but not least, to enhance the capacity for monitoring progress, giving students the ability to self-regulate, which is so important. It's always been important, but I feel like it's even more important in today's world when we have so many different ways to connect and so many different types of distractions. So we want students to be able to monitor their own progress. Now, the other thing that I absolutely love about choice boards, like I said, was the ability to differentiate. So most of the time when we are looking at differentiation, we're differentiating either the content, the product, or the process. And so all three of those things can be differentiated in one choice board, or we can have choice boards for each type of differentiation. So this is a powerful tool to have in your toolbox. And like I said, back to school is the perfect time to jump in. Now, just in case you're getting lost, because this episode is going a bit deeper, I also want to let you know that I am delivering a choice board session at the Shake Up Learning Back to School Conference. This is a free online conference. However, the choice board session is for the all access members. So this is a special upgrade. Those of you who already have your all access pass, you will get automatic access to my session. If you register for the free conference, don't worry, there are tons of sessions that will help you find new ideas for the new school year. Now let's talk about what a choice board can look like. And there are many different versions. If you've listened to me at all, you know that the tic-tac-toe is my absolute favorite. It's so flexible. It's great for short activities or even big projects. And I have shared back in episode 8 my version of instructional design and how I use the tic-tac-toe to ensure we are reaching a learning goal. And that is what we want to do. So typically a choice board is a table of some sort. We've got little squares now that can look like a tic-tac-toe. It can look like a bingo board. It can look like all kinds of things. It could also be a list. And within that list or that table, each one of those activities should align to a learning goal. And going back to what we said before about differentiation, whether that is a learning goal about the content and reading, researching, exploring, or if that is about creating something based on that content and creating a product, or even working through the process more like project-based learning. So we have, again, so many options. And I have to warn you that there are tons of free choice boards out there, and I love them. I have many of them on a Pinterest board, and I share lots of choice boards. I have a few little templates that I've shared on the website. Of course, you'll be able to get those at our show notes at shakeuplearning.com/121. But I also have to come back and reference episode 10 with Carly Black. So Carly Black is now a part of the Shake Up Learning team. She is helping me behind the scenes. She's helping me with blog posts and images and doing a fantastic job. But what Carly shared in that episode was really powerful. She had taken the novel study tic-tac-toe board that I had shared, and what we realized through the coaching process was that didn't actually align to her learning goals. And that is so important. And y'all are going to hear me hit on this so many times, so just get used to it. But as you keep going and as you keep working through this, finding templates online is great. Like we said in episode 119 with Sarah Kiefer, templates need to be adapted for your classroom. So you need to make sure that this free, awesome thing that you found online is actually going to work for your students. And as we all know as teachers, each year our students are a little bit different. We need to tweak things. It's great to find templates, but make sure that you are not just taking it directly from someone else's website and posting it in Google Classroom and expecting magic to happen. You need to, again, make sure your instructional design and your learning goals are all part of this process. So let's talk about some strategies that you can use in choice boards, especially for back to school. So during back to school, like I said, we're building those relationships. So any of those types of activities that help you get to know your students better, that help you learn who they are, not only, what they did this summer. And y'all be careful with that one because sometimes that can single out some kids who didn't get to do much. But the ability to make those connections and to find out who they are as learners is just as important, so that we can build that relationship and support them as learners. So as you are creating choice boards, especially for those first few weeks of school, be sure to keep that in mind. The other strategies that we want to think about are building background knowledge or activating prior knowledge. So we want to make sure that we can connect those dots for students. We want to scaffold. We want to make this meaningful. Choice boards are great for enrichment. So I always had students who would rush through assignments to have free time, or what they thought was going to be free time in my classroom. And I quickly learned as a new teacher that was not what I wanted, because they would rush. They wouldn't give me their best work. So you want to make sure that there's no incentive to rush. But you also want to have something ready for those early finishers and enrichment. And enrichment is a great idea for choice boards to keep students engaged in the content, possibly moving on to the next learning goal and working through that. Choice boards also work great for reviewing content. So when you're getting near the end of a unit of study, you can design a choice board for review purposes. And, my favorite is to use a choice board to demonstrate mastery. And I think that's key. And when we talk about rubrics in just a second, we'll talk about how important it is to align that and not just make this a completion grade. We want to make sure that we are evaluating what we needed to assess in the first place. Again, coming back to those learning goals. What was it that is going to tell us that the student has mastered this skill or this knowledge? And choice boards came in handy last year during remote learning. So the ability to use choice boards to create asynchronous activities, to flip your classroom. And again, it's so flexible. I feel like choice boards fit in that asynchronous category. Like I said, going back to my own classroom and my own story and how I use them to balance the different things that were going on in my classroom, because it made me a better teacher. It helped my students to, again, take ownership, to learn how to monitor their own progress. Yes, I might have micromanaged them in the beginning, but I learned some very valuable lessons through this process. The other thing that I want you to think about when it comes to choice boards is timing, because depending on the number of choices that you give them, it can be really difficult to find that balance. Okay, so if a student chooses this square versus this square, what's the amount of rigor? What's the amount of time that the choice requires? So we have to balance rigor and time. This will never be perfect because even with whole groups, students require different amounts of time to complete activities. That's just what it's like as a teacher. Never fails. You almost always have someone who can finish very quickly and you have some who need extra time. So don't feel like there is a perfect way to do this, but you need to think about this in your lesson design. Just be careful not to have a 5-minute option against a 45-minute option. And be sure that you add time recommendations to the information for each choice. So how much time you expect this to take. Because again, when students are monitoring their own time, they may also feel like they've got the freedom to waste time. And we don't want them to feel that either. We want them to stay in that purposeful learning moment. Hey y'all, I want to interrupt our featured content to share something really special with you. Teaching and learning in a post-COVID world is different. The world will never be the same, and schools and classrooms are adapting to the new normal. Are you ready? The Shake Up Learning team is excited to announce a brand new online conference coming this September. It's completely free, online, asynchronous, and designed for K-12 teachers and educational leaders. So mark your calendars for September 24th through the 30th. With a focus on adapting to the new normal, this conference will help teachers and educational leaders learn new skills and strategies to engage students in online and blended learning. We've got over 30 breakout sessions and some special keynotes by myself and Jen Giffen. This is sure to be an event to remember. Go to shakeuplearning.com/conference to register today. And hey, if you're already an All Access Pass member, you're going to get access to all of these sessions for as long as your pass is in good standing. So looking forward to that and can't wait to share the back to school conference with you coming in September. Now, when it gets into the guidance and the rubrics and grading, this is where things get a little sticky. And over the years, as I've shared this, I've received so many questions and it has just helped me dig deeper. So I am a firm believer that grading should always be related to the learning outcomes and depth of knowledge, not the technology or the amount of activities completed. I will tell you different options that teachers do with choice boards, for instance. But, complete more activities and you're going to get a higher grade. I don't really agree with that. I don't think grades should be equal to the amount of work. I think grades should reflect learning. Now, that's just my opinion. There are many others out there. So when I talk about rubrics and things like that for choice boards in my book, Blended Learning with Google, you'll see an example that I recommend your rubric align with your learning goal, not with the technology. So for instance, if they were asked to create a presentation, we're not going to grade how many graphics they added, how many transitions they added. You don't want the grade to be about the tech, unless you are the technology teacher, you are the exception. So you want to make sure that you align your rubric with your learning objectives so you can assess more accurately. This also allows you to align the entire choice board in that way so that you're not creating rubric after rubric after rubric for every single choice that you give them. Now, that's not always so easy to do, but in theory, this is really the direction we want to go. So I want you to think of rubric versus guidance and give students guidance for the variance in product or process choices. And these things might be time limits, details, answering questions. So for instance, if you have created a tic-tac-toe choice board in Google Docs or Google Slides, you could link to another slide or another document or another page that gives those guidelines. So guidelines are great, and you're going to learn what guidelines you need the more you do choice boards. Again, it's an experience thing. And it's one of those things that as students ask questions and as you get the same question over and over, you're like, okay, I need to add that to the guidelines. So think about that, answer those questions, give them the details that they need without giving them a formula. I'm very against formulaic products from our students. Many of you may have heard me talk about this in my books and my presentations, but oftentimes when we give students an example, all they want to do is recreate the example instead of tapping into their own creativity. So we don't want to stifle creativity in the process. The other thing that kind of ties back to what I was saying earlier is to be careful with point value lists. And I recently delivered a workshop and we were talking about choice boards and someone was bringing this up. And a lot of teachers like this. They like having a list with point values. But when students choose how much they want to do for a certain amount of points, then learning is not really the goal. Learning isn't a choice. The learning path should be the choice. It's not whether do you want to do enough work to make a 70 or do you want to do enough work to make a 90? That really to me shouldn't be the goal because I want that 90 to reflect 90% mastery. So that is truly just a philosophy that I have. But I just want to caution you against using too many things with lists and point values when it comes to choice boards and things like that. I also have seen many different types of products. And I have a list in Blended Learning with Google. There's a list of product choices there that most of them are things that I have done in my classroom or would be doing today if I were still in my middle school classroom. But I see a lot of other things that are just busy work, and it just kind of drives me crazy. So some products to avoid: acrostics and crosswords. Y'all, I really just don't see how this builds much capacity. It might trigger some prior knowledge, or it might help them remember some vocabulary, but that is not the biggest bang for the buck when it comes to teaching those things. So I caution you against doing something so simplistic when we really should be striving for deeper knowledge. And caution you against tech-focused products that are not about your own content goals, again, unless you're the technology teacher. So I was very guilty of this in my early years of teaching because I was the techie teacher and I didn't always have purpose with my technology. So tech is not the goal. Whatever your content is, those are your goals. So make sure that it is not just tech for tech's sake. Another question that comes up a lot, because I do present this as a K-12 strategy, is, okay, what in the world does this look like at kindergarten when they can't even read? So we definitely have to make the choice boards for littles more visual. And here are a couple of things that you can do. You can record videos for each choice to explain those. So if I was doing this in Google Slides, it'd be really easy to create a table and insert those videos, or even audio. You could insert audio narration there too. You could color code them. So students know their colors. Those colors could align to different activities you have in your room. They can align to stations. Of course, colors are not the only ways, animals and shapes and other things like that. But we definitely need much more teacher guidance with the littles. And in fact, a choice board might technically be worked through as a whole class for the first few times. And then maybe as you progress on into the second semester, kids begin taking some ownership of that in kinder. And yes, it can happen. Of course, this is not just kinder, K through 2, the littles have to have more guidance with this. But by the time they reach middle school and high school, y'all, choice boards should be a no-brainer. So I came from the secondary world, and many secondary teachers still feel like you lecture in front of the room and the whole class does the exact same thing at the exact same time. And I am telling you, there are better ways to do this. And there's so much we can learn from elementary teachers that we can bring into our secondary classrooms. And choice boards are not for elementary. They're for anyone. I have used them with adults. I have used them in secondary, and we can definitely use them at any level in elementary. We just got to get a little bit more creative with those littles. As promised, I also have some choice board examples I want to share with you, and these come from the Shake Up Learning team. Now, some of these choice boards are for the classroom, and some of these are for professional learning to help teachers learn how to do different things. And I am a huge supporter of implementing the things we want to see in our K-12 classrooms in our professional learning so that teachers understand this and can dig in as a student what it looks like. So first up, I want to share a resource from Kim Matina. And Kim is awesome, y'all. You will love her accent as well as her podcast, The Sweet Talk. So she is super googly, and she has shared with me a book of templates that she has saved inside Book Creator. And you can flip through this. I will have this embedded in our show notes at shakeuplearning.com/120. And we've got everything from G Suite Bingo. And this is probably great for teachers and students. There are lots of different choices. It is tech focused, but when you are trying to build those technology skills or doing things like enrichment with older kids, I think this can be extremely useful to help them gain those skills. There's also a remote learning choice board that kind of has 3 steps and 3 choices for each. So step 1 is learning, which is reading an article or watching a video. Step 2 is the do, and that is where you're going to complete the activity or check for understanding. And she's got lots of examples of using things like Edpuzzle or WeVideo or Flipgrid or Wakelet or Book Creator, Adobe Spark. There are tons of tools that we can use and give as choices for our students. And step 3 is meet. So conference for feedback. So getting feedback through Google Classroom, Google Meet, Zoom, lots of different choices. Of course, this was for remote learning. Many of us are not going back to remote learning, but you can tweak this and make that meeting possibly a one-on-one teacher conference and get students to learn how to use Google Calendar to schedule that, or even, working through something in an online environment. Sarah McKinney, another Shake Up Learning trainer, shared lots of different choice boards. She's got several examples that she's used in PD with teachers, and then she's got several for the classroom. So I want to talk about a couple of the classroom projects. Sarah has a narrative writing presentation that's created in Google Slides, and you'll see lots of different options to get creating and to get students working on that narrative writing, which we know is all required, aligns with our standards. And in most states, I do believe this is still a highly tested essay, writing the narrative. I remember teaching this in my middle school classroom. And so she's got some different ways to create a presentation, to take that writing to the next level using something like Book Creator, Animoto, or Adobe Spark Video and Story Jumper to create and share those, and giving those students some options of tools. I will say giving students tools as options is probably one of the first steps with using choice boards. That the choice is about the technology, and that's an easy way in. Once you start getting used to the choices and students adapt to that as well, you can start going deeper and getting more into the process and not just the product and the content and the exploration and the research side of things. Sarah also shared a sample menu for elementary that is several boxes here. It is created in Google Drawings, but there is a column for each of the 5 subject areas. So students have those options. She's got instructions out to the side. She's got instructions to help her teachers learn how to customize this and how to use it in Seesaw, as well as a suggestion for adding a QR code introduction. So I love that. You can put a QR code in the middle and have students scan that and give them a video that you've created using Seesaw or Loom or Screencastify or whatever your choice is, and having students kind of walk through that. They have that there. Of course, you can do this in person, but what's great about recording that video is it's there for students to rewatch later when they forget, and for students that are absent. And of course, helping parents who are supporting things at home as well. So that is a really great menu. Next up, we have a storytelling multimedia text set choice board from Jen Giffen. Y'all know Jen. Jen has been doing the summer webinar series. She's also a Shake Up Learning trainer, and she has created a choice board here with different storytelling options, which we actually hit on in one of the webinars, but examples of TED Talks, sketch notes, memoirs, spoken word, social media, photo essays, and all the different ways that you can do that. So there are a lot of different ways that students can tell stories and a lot of different ways that they want to tell stories. And storytelling is something I've shared many times, and especially in blended learning with Google, that is a powerful strategy for any classroom because there are stories to tell in every single classroom, every single grade level. So that's a really great one to check out and adapt for your classroom. I don't know, we're quickly running out of time, so I'm not going to be able to share all of the examples. We will have more in the show notes, like I said, at shakeuplearning.com/1 2020, but Pam Hubler, also a Shake Up Learning trainer, has curated a Wakelet board of choice boards that's super handy. So if you're looking for more ideas, it is a great place to explore this idea of choice boards and look at some different examples. And of course, she also mentioned a really great one that, not that she created or curated, but it's from Slides Mania. Y'all have heard me talk about the wonders of Slides Mania, and Paula over there has created some great templates in Google Slides for creating choice boards and challenge boards that you can use as a template and fill in your activities. So there are so many ideas for choice boards. I'm running out of time. I don't want this podcast to get too long. But be sure, again, that you visit our show notes at shakeuplearning.com/121. And I will have more choice board ideas coming at you very soon because I didn't get to everything. So I hope you like these ideas. I hope you will check out the show notes, and I hope you will try choice boards when you start school this school year. It's time for our podcast question of the week. So each week I like to leave you with a question to get you thinking about how you can take these ideas into your own classroom or your role in education. So I'd love to know, how can you use choice boards this school year to differentiate for your students? I do believe that is one of the most powerful things about choice boards. Please feel free to post your answers in the Shake Up Learning community or on your favorite social media platform using the Shake Up Learning hashtag. Well, bless your heart for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you will stay tuned for even more back to school ideas and our back to school conference. So don't forget to go to shakeuplearning.com/conference to register for this free event. If you have not clicked that subscribe button, I would love it if you would subscribe to the show so that you get notified when new podcast episodes come out each week. So until next time, y'all go shake up learning.
Thanks for listening to the Shake Up Learning Show. Keep up with every new episode by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or Stitcher, and by visiting shakeuplearningshow.com. And get in on the conversation on Twitter by using the Shake Up Learning hashtag. Until next time, remember to always be dynamic and shake up learning.
Hey there. Feel free to stick around and join me for a closing prayer. This week, I felt led by a couple of things. First of all, singing This Little Light of Mine to children. And it came up in my devotional talking about being the salt of the earth and the light in the darkness. So join me in a prayer, if you will. Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to come together as educators. We thank you for the opportunity to let our light shine for you. While it may not always be easy in public schools to be the light and to let your light shine through us, we have to do everything we can to keep that light burning, to be a light in the darkness for our students and for other teachers who need us. And we thank you for this opportunity to be a light to our schools and to our teachers and to our students. In your precious name we pray. Amen.